Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect. This episode we are going to be talking about news for the past week or so. We don't really have a review that we're going to be doing this week. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the latest news in film, television, pop culture. We might get around to talking about some things we've been watching lately, but it's been kind of a crazy week. So I don't know if we'll get to that or not. We'll find out. By the way, I'm David Lott. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good. It's lots to talk about, like you said. So I'm curious on your thoughts about some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm ready to dive in.
Yeah, it's funny. So, you know, when we have these weeks that there's not like a big movie release that we're all gonna all go see and do a review of, it's like, okay, this will be an opportunity to talk about some news. And at first it's funny, like it's been already a troubled week for us even just to record this episode. We have tried 2 or 3 times this week to make this happen, and we keep running into issues.
Could have recorded 3 shows as many times as we've tried this week to do a show. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't all, some of it was technical issues just with our record. Other was just house issues. My air conditioning died like literally 30 minutes before we were going to record. And, depending on where you live, that may sound like, yeah, what's the big deal? I live in Florida. That is a no, big deal. That's a big deal. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I was immediately like, yep, no, show's not happening. Sorry.
It's already going to be a sauna when you go outside the house. You don't want it as a sauna inside as well. So
yeah. Especially
got to get that fixed real quick.
Got lights on me as we record. Yeah. That wasn't going to happen. So we are finally making this happen. Like the first attempt was Monday night and now it's Thursday. Mm-hmm. We are finally here. And then, even more things have developed throughout the week. It's basically been a Warner Brothers show like throughout the week. It's been something else, but a little housekeeping before we get into our first topic. Depending on if you're watching this or listening to this, you may not realize that there's other ways to enjoy the show. The Flicker Effect podcast is available on YouTube at youtube.com/Flicker Effect. You can like us and subscribe over there. As always, hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos in the future. There is also an audio version of the show, regular old audio podcast available basically wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if that is your preference, look for us in that form as well. So just wanted to mention that before we got into it. So where to begin? I think it's safe to say we're going to begin with this Batgirl controversy. If you don't know, and I don't want to like do a whole like backstory, it could take forever, but you may have heard that this week the Batgirl film was shelved and is not going to be released either in theaters or in HBO Max. It is not going to be seen by audiences, apparently, ever. It's not going to happen. And then, to back up a little bit, so AT&T used to own Warner Media. They decided to let that go, and Discovery and Warner Media merged to create, I think their name is Warner Brothers Discovery or something like that. Yeah. David Zaslav is now the new head honcho over at that, Warner Brothers Discovery. And he's definitely been very active in making a lot of changes at the company ever since he's taken over. And we got word at the beginning of the week that Batgirl, which is a film that, and correct me if I'm wrong, was going to be a straight to HBO Max film for DC. Yeah. And it was basically all shot. Like photography, from my understanding, at least principal photography was done. And the effects, I don't think, were complete. So the film wasn't literally totally complete. Yeah. But it was basically in the can and almost ready to go, even to the point that they had done test screenings of the film. Mm-hmm. So Yeah. And then suddenly we got word this week that they are not going to release it on HBO Max. They're not going to release it in theaters. No one is ever going to get a chance to see this movie. They are basically giving up on it and shelving it. And I guess it appears that the best way they feel like they can go forward financially as a company is to not show it to anyone so that they can not make any type of profit on it, thus being able to, I guess, work some tax magic and such. So yeah, like that, it came as a shock, I think, to just about everyone when that happened. I don't know how you reacted when that news first went down. I saw it and was just like, holy hell, what is happening? Like how is it possible you guys shot this movie and are not even going to release it on HBO Max? Because I think that's anyone's first reaction is like, okay, it's one thing to go, we don't want to waste money to put this in theaters, but I mean, what's the big deal about putting it on HBO Max? Like, I mean, at least let us see it. But then, I pretty quickly, thought, I think the same thing that a lot of people were thinking. And then news was coming out that, this movie apparently is not very good. Word is anyway, that from the test screenings and such, and the studio's execs themselves, having seen the film, they had no confidence in it. It appears, and it appears that they, in making a move to shelve it, wasn't just a financial decision in terms of, oh, well, now we can take a tax break and we'll make more money that way. It also seemed to be an effort to protect the DC brand, which David Zaslav, it appears to have, he has said that it is a priority to use the DC brand that they have at their disposal.
It's their crown jewel.
Yeah, in a proper way. And so it appears that the thought is like, hey, if this movie really is that bad, sure, we could just show it to people, but it reflects on the brand. And they seem to be making an effort to like really turn the tide for DC and Warner Brothers. And it appears they don't want to put out anything that's not very good and they don't have confidence in. What are your thoughts on this whole kind of crazy situation?
I mean, you did a great job of summing up the situation as it started and where we are now. And the initial reports, you did just my initial reaction was like the same as yours. Why would they do this? Why would they at least not put it on their streaming service? Because that would make the most sense. And then as you start to hear the motive behind it was, and the initial motive that I had saw was the tax thing, that they wanted to try and get some money taken off the books, basically based on how not showing it anywhere would leave them in the position to be able to do that. And even within those initial articles, I think I remember reading in one of them where it said, this is not to reflect on the product, and we think everyone was great, blah, blah, blah. Very much not blaming it on the movie itself at all. And then I think it was a little bit later, either in that same day or the next day, where I started to see more about, well, maybe actually the movie wasn't up to the kind of quality that they wanted to put out there, especially in the theater. It wasn't good enough for theater. And to put it out on HBO Max, that would have meant still putting more money into it, as well as now this is going to be indicative of the DC brand. And we don't want something that's subpar, that's not up to snuff, to be put out there and representing anything that could make people further shake their head and disapproval at DC. So from that perspective, I understand, and it makes business sense that you don't want anything to derail what you're trying to set up, and you're really cleaning house. And it sucks for the people who were involved with the project that they don't get to have their work seen. But on the other hand, if it's really that bad, then maybe it's a blessing in disguise that this thing doesn't get seen and you still can go on and do other things. So it's it's the position we as consumers or people who are plugged into this are stuck in is that we knew about this thing and we kind of wanted to see it. And then there's the Michael Keaton of it all. The fact that this was another project that he was involved in that doesn't seem to be now at this point, it's not going to be seen. It's not coming out. So we don't know what that looks like. And that's probably the most unfortunate part for it to me. Yes, I would have wanted to see Batgirl just in general and what the story they were going to tell and how she fits into this DC universe that they've been building. But even more so than that, I wanted to see more of Michael Keaton playing Batman in another project. So it's kind of frustrating from that end. But then the idea was at least still sort of prescient that he was going to be out there in some other projects. But we haven't really discussed that part yet, but it seems like even some of those projects doesn't seem to be happening, or maybe at least one will and one won't, where he was going to be in it. So it's kind of like, I get it because he has a direction he wants to go in. It's just a shocker because it almost never happens with something like you said that's for all intents and purposes done and in the can. So it's just, wow, he's really, David Zaslav is really taking the reins of Warner Brothers and doing like a hard turn. You know, it's not like a slow moving to right the ship. He's like literally yanking that thing into the direction it needs to go. So it's just interesting to see this taking place. And the other thing that I find interesting about it is the other side of what people were speculating based on some of this news. And sure enough, as I kind of surmised, there'd be people out there that was like, oh, that means they're bringing the Zack Snyder universe back because they're canceling all these other things. And it's like, no, that's not what they're doing. There's no way that's what they're doing. So there's all these conspiracies around it and stuff. And it's going to be nice whenever it happens. I don't know if they're doing their DC fandom this year or what they plan to do, when they plan to do it, but it'll be very nice to see once they can actually maybe give us a slate of what they're trying to plan out for the next couple years or more. Because I don't know if you had a chance to see that article that was today, because Warner Brothers had their business call.
Their earnings call.
So, yeah, the earnings call. And so they mentioned that, and one of the things that I read, that David Zaslav said that they want to lay out a 10-year plan for DC, much in the same way that Marvel does. And so that means they definitely have big ideas on the table for what they want to do with this universe moving forward. So I'm very curious to see what those will be. And if it's more at this point, just sort of an edict, like this is what we're going to do. We're going to plan out a 10-year thing. We don't have anything yet. Or if they're starting to already have these things and going to be laid out for us at some point in time in the future.
Yeah, it seems to me, as someone who is a DC fan and have been wanting a good, proper like DC universe of films like that, at least on the surface, it appears Zaslav is making the moves to finally get us there, like the hard decisions. You know, I mean, you know, we're of course basing some of our opinions on the apparent situation that the movie wasn't any good. I mean, we haven't seen it. We don't know if that's true, but it would appear, based on most of the reporting we've seen, it seems like there's a lot of sources saying, yeah, no, it really wasn't very good. I've heard that, or
at least not in their eyes.
Right, at least not in their eyes. I mean, obviously, all film is subjective. You know, I'm sure there's some people that would like it, but you know, either not very good in all of their eyes, but also just not in the direction that Zaslav and the rest of Warner Brothers wants to go in. And it's like, I don't want to put this out and then still have to wait for a reset. So, I mean, if all of this is the case, I, as a fan, am fine with this decision. I mean, of course, as a fan, like you said, we're in a day and age where we know everything that's going on as soon as it goes into like pre-production, you know, and to be fans that are following along on the ride of, okay, so they're filming now, and hey, look, there she is in the costume, and look, I saw, a shot of Michael Keaton in the costume in a scene, and we're all excited, like, to be fans like that in this day and age, and then to be like, okay, yeah, and all that stuff that you were super excited for, you're never going to see this. It's hard. Like, even if it's bad, I don't want to see bad DC movies, but of course I still am curious to watch it. Like, I was thinking now, like, I would love a Kevin Smith directed film about like a group of kids or guys that like go in to break into Warner Brothers to get the hard drive of the film and watch it. Kind of like that movie Fanboys. I don't know if you ever saw that.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I never saw it, but I remember that.
Yeah, something in the vein of that. That would be perfect for this situation, just to kind of make fun of the whole thing. But anyway, no, I mean, in one respect, it's a bummer that we can't at least just get it on HBO Max and just be like, hey, here's a side thing. Even say, it's not very good. We don't like it, but in the actress, I'm blanking on her name right now, that played Batgirl.
Leslie Grace.
Yes. She's a great actress from what I've seen so far, and I have no reason to believe that she's not great in this. It doesn't appear, at least what they're saying, is this has nothing to do with her performance or anyone's performance in it. It's just that the movie wasn't very good. And that happens.
Not up to quality.
Yeah. So, yeah, I saw some of the stuff about the earnings call. And, I saw the one quote, he says the objective is to grow the DC brand, to grow the DC characters, but also our job is to protect the DC brand. And that's what we're going to do, which seems to be a response of, the Batgirl situation. And to think about, too, like you're saying how he's making that hard turn to, like, right the ship, like, right now. I am going to fix this. I'm not going to wait. I also have to wonder, like, it would be one thing if he were in the situation where indeed, there is nothing being produced by DC right now of any quality, and we can just kind of hit the reset button and everything and start like our own good universe and get a good, like, Kevin Feige style head in here. But he also is going to a situation where they do have some films that are quite good. Like the Matt Reeves Batman was fantastic, and I can't wait for a sequel. We are getting a sequel to Joker. They've just dated it. What was it, yesterday or today, for October of 2024. So it will be interesting to see how, in whatever plan they come up with, how that stuff continues to exist. I don't know if it will continue to exist kind of on the outskirts of a more connected universe or what. It'll just be interesting to see. I don't know if you've had if you thought about that at all, or.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much landed where you did, is that I imagine that they'll still try and continue doing these outside the extended universe or connected universe movies, like you have your Joker and the Batman, because if we're going by what Zaslav's record is so far, he is looking to cut costs and optimize any of the products that they put out. Joker got nominated for awards. So that's already something that shows that it has prestige, and it made like $1 billion some dollars off of a however much budget, like very low budget. So that's obviously something he wants to continue being able to do if he can. And obviously Matt Reeves' Batman made good money. It was critically praised and people loved it as well. So I can't imagine why you would shut that down. Right. So if there's no need to, if people get it, that those things aren't connected to the stuff that we've seen with Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot. It's outside of that stuff. So they get it. So there's no reason to touch the stuff that's coming on outside of it. Continue doing that and do more of that, as long as it's high quality and done for something reasonable in his eyes of a budget. So I think that will continue alongside of a more refined and more focused, connected universe that they'll put forth as we go along. And I think that one of the things that seems to be most telling about that is he mentioned still that they were excited by the movies that they have seen, that they have right now that are coming out. And that would include The Flash. So whatever The Flash is going to do, it may alter and be right in line where he wants to go with the future of DC. So that movie in particular holds a lot of cards in terms of what we could be seeing going forward. And so that's probably why it's still coming out next summer, and we'll get to see maybe some hints as to where things will be going.
Did you read that whole quote, though? It was interesting how he worded that about those upcoming movies. Like, yeah, because I mean, there's been a lot of rumors also in the past couple days that Shazam: Fury and the Gods and the Aquaman 2 could be pushed back even further. Mm-hmm. And I guess in the earnings call, and I'm reading from the Hollywood Reporter right now, they write, Zaslav touted a number of DC films coming up, including Black Adam and Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and addressed rumors that some of those films could shift dates without confirming or denying any specifics. And then they go on to quote him. He says, "We are very excited about them. We've seen them. We think they are terrific, and we think we can make them even better." It was that make them even better part I thought was interesting. Like, I mean, if indeed that's kind of your response to, hey, we could possibly push these back, is this still a situation where you're like, yeah, we're going to continue to make changes to these movies?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if indeed you're making them even better, I'm not against that. Like, that's great. You know, I am someone that was not a big fan of Aquaman, and if you can make Aquaman 2 better, I am all for it. It's because I don't have any hope in it. Yeah. But then Shazam and Black Adam, I mean, if there's anything about those movies that maybe aren't quite up to snuff and you can make them better, you know, sure, I'll wait a few more months.
I think that might be what I got out of it as well, and in terms of saying that they're already really good where we like them, but there's chance and potential here to make them even better. And so if in making these things better, it causes us to delay, then so be it. So that's kind of where I read in what he was saying, is that right now, maybe we will do stuff to make it better. We don't know whether or not that will affect schedule. And if it does, then we'll have to move these things. But that's all wrapped up into trying to make what they have better than what they already see it to be at this point.
Yeah. While we're on this topic, I think it's worth mentioning. I mean, we've known actually for a while, I don't know how long it's been, that they have planned to merge HBO Max and Discovery Plus into one streaming service. This isn't really new news. No. Though it seems like in the past couple of days also, like I've been scrolling through Twitter. I've been scrolling through Twitter almost every day just to be like, okay, I open the app and I'm like, oh God, what is going to happen? Like, because that's how I found out about the Batgirl situation. I go into Twitter, and a more prominent like film blogger / writer that I follow, all I saw in his tweet was, at least we have that Batgirl film. And I read that and I was like, oh God, what's happening? And I just immediately Google Batgirl, and then I see the news. It was like 15 or 30 minutes old. But anyway, like I've been opening Twitter almost every day. Like, okay, what has Warner Brothers done now? And then like I was even confused. Like a couple days ago, I open it and I just see all this ranting about HBO Max, and it wasn't even coherent. I'm like, what is going on now? And it seemed like a lot of panic about HBO Max and what's going to happen to that service, because it's pretty highly regarded. I mean, I think we can both agree it's a very solid streaming service. A lot of great content on there. And then, like, I guess it mostly was centering around the fact that, there was talk again about the fact that these two services are going to merge, which again isn't new news. The word from the earnings call, I believe, was that should happen next summer, right? 2023, I think.
Yeah.
So Yeah, they're going to merge the stuff. It doesn't mean like, I think, a lot of that content from HBO Max is going away though. I mean, yeah, I guess there have been like certain films they have silently removed from the service. I don't even remember if I saw the list of what they were. I've heard that they were movies that no one was watching and frankly weren't very good. And maybe that's why they got rid of them.
I would say it's debatable that they weren't good. I think I saw 2 or 3 that were listed on there, and I thought they were decent.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they were getting views because,
Right.
like you said, it seemed like they didn't. So with so much content, it's easy that some things that could be on there are getting overlooked and not have any kind of viewership to them. So then if they're already paying for however much on licensing or whatever the case may be for these products, for this content, and no one's watching it, then it makes sense that if there's some way you can write this off, or not necessarily write it off, but extract it from your service and save yourself some money that way, then yeah, I could see why you would do that. I mean, he just seems very pragmatic in the way he's going about trying to save the company money, and be able to streamline and trim fat and everything else in terms of a way of being able to create something that's a name in Warner Brothers and a name in HBO and elevate it even higher. And so I think that that's where his mindset is at. And he's, like you said at the beginning of the show, I guess, is to make those tough decisions to be able to get to that point.
Right. But I think that basically covers it with most of the Warner Brothers controversy this week. If there's anything else I'm forgetting, please chime in. But
well, we've just been talking about HBO Max, and we were both in agreement upon how well we like that service. I'm kind of curious because I don't know. At some point yesterday, I was doing the count in my head about you, as well as me, as well as many out there, have so many different streaming services that we're subscribed to at this point. If you had to cut and get down to just three, which 3 would you have? I think I know 2 of your 3, but just what would be your 3 streaming services you would keep if you had to just have 3?
of course, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything because you're right. There are so many. Sadly, I'm literally picturing my Apple TV menu, like how it's laid out. And okay, so I have Hulu, and I have Disney Plus, and I have HBO Max, and I have Netflix. It's interesting you bring this up because I recently was like kind of looking through all of the different things that I am subscribed to that just automatically pull out of my bank account, right? And a lot of these things, depending on how anyone deals with their finances, you may think about it much every month, you may not. And I'll be honest, like, we've been hearing a lot about Netflix and their financial situation. And I look at what I pay for Netflix and I'm like, honestly, I have not had the need to watch almost anything on Netflix lately. I'm fully admitting I have not watched the last season of Stranger Things, which is a failure on my part. But other than that, I haven't watched much. Now I say that, and I'm actually very excited about Sandman, which comes to Netflix tomorrow. So, I have to say, to answer your question, okay, it would be Disney Plus. I would be HBO Max. That third spot. That's tough. Like when I think about what Netflix costs, that I would probably axe Netflix and go for like, oh man, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Probably Hulu I'd keep. I don't know. I don't know what What I mean, I'm probably forgetting something. I'm not even like it's an obvious. Oh yeah, I have that. I would totally keep it.
Well, I guess it was for me because I had two of the 3 that you would say, and you only named one of the 3.
Two okay. What am I forgetting? See, I'm probably just forgetting something. Please tell me.
Well, I for real thought that Well, maybe you are, but you just don't count it, or at least not in that top three. I for sure thought your second one would be Apple TV or
Oh, yes,
Apple
yes,
Plus.
yes. Oh, absolutely. You're right. Oh, see, I'm not even
Okay.
thinking about that. Okay, so no, it would be I would keep Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Apple TV done.
Okay.
That's like almost an easy pick.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
I would cry a little bit about not being able to watch Sandman and
yeah,
never getting a chance to go back and watch season 4 Stranger Things. But yeah, I would have
yeah,
to
yeah.
almost purely be based on the cost of it at this point. When I look what I pay for Netflix versus what I pay for a lot of the other streamers, yeah, I would. What about you?
So my three, okay, it's interesting because there's definitely same things, scenarios where I have to weigh out really how much of the content on that particular streaming service am I actually watching, and how much of the stuff that I'm actually watching do I really enjoy. And so number one is definitely going to be Disney Plus. I got to keep that.
Yeah.
There's too many Marvel shows and Star Wars shows that just will come out that I gotta have it. I gotta have
Right.
it. Number two for me would more than likely be HBO Max. And again, it's for a lot of the reasons we stated. HBO in and of itself has always, for throughout the years, had really good quality programming and stuff like that. And then now with it being with Warner Brothers, in terms of them having the movies that would come, I would be able to see those movies there as well, and the DC stuff that they have. So that would be two. And the third one for me was hard because, sort of like you said with Netflix, there's certain things that come on Netflix, but I think that it's sporadic in the way that some of the stuff comes out. You get Stranger Things once every 3 years, it seems like.
Right.
Yeah, we have Sandman now, but when will another season of it come out? If it gets another season or whatever. So it's like it's not like you got a hit series or a hit movie that's coming out once every couple months. It's like, once a year, or maybe twice a year, that there's things on Netflix as far as a series goes that I would really want to watch. So that would be one I think would get the axe. Hulu, that would get the axe for me as well, because it typically, for me, Hulu show doesn't have enough original content to keep me plugged into it. And what it tends to do is get a lot of TV series that are on network and brings them over there. But I already have YouTube TV, so I can see that stuff anyway. So that one would get the axe. So really, the next one that made it most possible for me to say was Amazon, because I love The Boys and I love Invincible. I like Jack Ryan. There's definitely a decent amount of stuff on Amazon that would make me want to say Amazon in the third spot. But honestly, it falls to the fourth spot for me, because the third spot would go positively, absolutely, to Paramount Plus for me. I find myself watching so much stuff on Paramount.
I needed to have a list to look at, like, not to say it would change mine, but Paramount Plus. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, Paramount Plus would be up there, man.
Yeah.
We have not completely finished Strange New Worlds, but I love that show. Like, every episode, I've watched a couple more this week, and I'm like, God damn, this is a good Star Trek show, man. Like,
yeah,
it's solid. Like, yeah. No, that'd
really
be a contender, but it would probably unfortunately get the axe. But
yeah, and they've also just had their earnings call, I think yesterday or today, and they had said that they had added 43 million subscribers or something. So they were actually up since the last quarter or whatever. And so they have the Star Trek stuff, and they had the Halo series, which I liked, even though everyone else was sort of a little bit more mixed on it. They have a lot of the MTV stuff that I watched, like the Challenge and the Challenge All Stars and all that stuff. So they have that. And they have like some other things on there far as the Paramount library that I've watched from stuff that was good there. And then one of the other shows that I watched was The Offer. That was about the story about the making of The Godfather. That was really good. I've heard good things about this show, Players. It's about these group of guys that are like doing e-tournament kind of video games things. Okay. I've heard good things about that. I haven't got a chance to watch it, but nonetheless, that's definitely the one where I feel like I would want, especially with Picard season 3 coming up, where you got the old cast of Next Generation coming back for that final season. And yeah, that's definitely my third. And then it would probably go Amazon and then Apple TV, because I've only just barely had Apple TV, and so there's still a lot of shows I haven't watched yet to know exactly like, ooh, this would definitely have to swing up to the third spot or something like that. So yeah,
if I had to keep going, I'd say Paramount Plus would probably be at my number 4 spot. And then honestly, it's like Netflix and Amazon. They would fight each other for 5. Like, because I think about The Boys. The Boys is fantastic, but do I watch anything else on Amazon? Right. I mean, Invincible, but I don't know when we're getting an Invincible season 2.
They just started voice work on season 2, so it probably won't be out until next year.
I mean, I don't know about you. I know I have at least a couple friends that the way they subscribe to things are purely like when they need it. Like, I have one friend like, hey, Mandalorian's dropping, so then he subscribes to Disney Plus and he'll watch Mandalorian, and then he unsubscribes. And hey, there's a good show coming on Netflix. Okay, he subscribes, watches it, gets out.
Right.
I think a lot of people will probably do that. And if I were to sit down and add up all the stuff I've subscribed to financially, I probably should start doing that. There's things like Netflix
they count on it being a hassle to do that, and that's why I don't do it, because it is a hassle.
It is a hassle.
Cancel this now. I gotta go and now these shows are coming, so now let me resubscribe, and so I just keep it. I keep it all.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I probably should start, considering at least some of the ones that I like. Hey, I rarely use this. Like, I mean, Amazon. Yeah, I have Amazon Prime, so I guess.
There you go. Yeah.
It's almost like I don't even consider it. Like, hey, I'm going to have Amazon Prime anyway, so it's there. And like for me, HBO Max is kind of the same way. I have HBO Max through AT&T, which is my cell phone provider. I don't really pay any extra for HBO Max. I just have it. So anyway.
Yeah. No, I get that.
No, it's an interesting
I would be curious for anyone else, that's watching this on YouTube, in the comment section, give us your top 3, top 5. I would be very, very curious to see what other people out there, what services that streaming services they can't live without, and which other ones that they would cut if they had to.
Hey, I'll admit I've paid for Formula One TV, and I've no regrets about paying for that. It's nice.
Wow.
I'm a fan. So
and that's like some people pay for NFL Network. And I think actually tonight's the start of preseason. I think we have our I think so. I think we have our game Hall of Fame game today. I think. So yes, people got their things in their vices. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say one reason I will definitely be keeping Disney Plus is we have a certain show coming up, which I think you and I are both pretty excited about, and that is Andor.
She-Hulk? Yeah.
No, Andor. She-Hulk. we'll get to She-Hulk. So Andor, our next Star Wars show, is coming to Disney Plus a little later than expected. It was supposed to drop, correct me if I'm wrong, August 31st was going to be the first episode. I think it was August 31st or 21st. I think it was the 31st.
I couldn't remember. And so that's why I honestly wasn't too mad when they released the new date, because I was like, I couldn't remember when it was supposed to come out anyway.
So yeah, they pushed it back to September 21st, but they also revealed that they're going to be dropping 3 episodes on September 21st. So you'll get to watch 3 episodes right off the bat. I think, how many episodes is that season supposed to be? Like 12?
12.
Okay. Yeah, 12 episode season. So hey, you'll get that first 3, and then you'll still have 9 more to go, which will be nice. They also
Oh
dropped
man.
a new trailer, which I was resistant to watch at first. Not resistant, I guess. So you're the one that shared like with me and Yasha and Michelle, like, hey, okay, they dropped a new
Hmm.
trailer, and I don't know. My first reaction was like, man, it's so soon. It's August something, right? Like I didn't realize they pushed it back yet.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, do I really want to watch this? And then I saw that they pushed it back. And I also saw like the reception to this trailer from you and like everyone else, which is, oh my God, this looks amazing. So like, okay, I'll go home, watch it on the TV. And I did. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say like the new trailer for me was even like about 1,000,000,000% better than the first trailer, because I was already in
No.
love with this based on the first trailer. This was just kind of more of the same of like, this show looks great. Like this
Hmm.
is a Star Wars show that when it was announced, I have a feeling there are many people in the same boat that when okay, we're going to do a show about Andor, this character from Rogue One, a movie which I love, by the way, but still, when I heard they're doing a spin-off show about him, I was kind of like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I love the rebellion and everything, but can we get some, a show about some Jedi or Sith or something? like,
Yep. Yep.
like, but then, we got Boba Fett and we got, whatever you think about Obi-Wan. We've talked about that on here before, but then we see the
Right.
trailer for this. You and I watched it on the show floor at Star Wars Celebration on our phone. And even just
Hmm.
on our phone, we were like, wow, that looks solid. And then this new trailer comes out and it still just looks so good. like, I mean, it's just a trailer. This show could end up being terrible. I hope it's not, because right now it looks great. I don't know. What did you think
Yeah.
of it?
Same. I mean, like you said, that's kind of why I was going to try and maybe give you another push if you had said that you weren't going to watch it, is
Yeah.
because I felt like even within this trailer, it's not giving any big secrets away. It's not doing anything that you don't need to know in terms of something that could be spoiled for you. It was just being able to see how well it looked. And it looks fantastic. It's just incredible to me what they did with this. I still don't know. Maybe you have the numbers in front of you, but I don't know what the budget of this show was. But they need to apply this to all Star Wars things they make going
Right.
forward, because it just looks incredible. They have said, I don't know if it was Tony Gilroy or anyone involved in, or who it was involved in the production, that said that they didn't use any of the volume. And for those out there who don't know what the volume is, that's what they shoot the Mandalorian and a lot of these Star Wars shows on, which is basically like a green screen, but it incorporates more of an environment to it, to where the actors can see what they're actually shooting up against instead of it just being a blank screen. So they decided to not use that and go on locations. But even just beyond that, it still looks incredible, because there's definitely location shots in Obi-Wan that don't look anywhere near like this. And just certain other shows have done that. Boba Fett had location shots, but again, it does not look like this. So whatever they're doing to this, and they have to be hearing how much people are loving the look of this, that they will want to try and duplicate as much as possible for any of their other shows. Because honestly, to me, when I saw this trailer and was getting into it, it's one of those things where you do hear people online talking about the idea and the story of Andor, but mostly they're talking about the visual look of it. And so to me, it's one of those things where I saw the trailer and I was like, man, if Lucasfilm came out and said that after every week of the episode, or after every 3 episodes, we're going to show those 3 episodes in theaters for that week, for that next week after it came out, I would go to the theater and watch those 3 episodes that I just saw on Disney Plus. I'd go into the theater and watch them that next week when they came out in the theater for that week, because they just look so well and shot and so cinematic. Just that in a way no other series has looked so far. So it just got me more excited for the series than I have already started to get within the last few months, just because of the way that it looks and the scale that it looks like it's on.
Yeah, I mean, I said this before when we talked about Obi-Wan. I'll say it again. I mean, I'm glad that they did this with the show. And like you said, I hope hopefully they're hearing the reception, like you said, that to this trailer and these trailers and how happy everyone is with the look. I hope they're listening and thinking, wow,
Yes.
not only is everyone seeming super excited with the look of this, but we already know we have a fantastic product if indeed it's good. Like, we really need to keep doing more of this. Because, again, like with Obi-Wan, like that, of all the shows, that was the one that felt like they should have just thrown all the money at Obi-Wan. And I guess in a way they probably felt like, oh, well, we don't have to. It's Obi-Wan. Like, you know, people are going to watch this no matter what. And if that's the attitude, that's unfortunate. Like, that's because in the end, then we got it. And now I'm left with a bad taste in my mouth of like, oh, man, I'm starting to lose faith in Star Wars television shows on Disney Plus. Because, yeah, like, that felt like that should have been like the pinnacle of what they were doing for Star Wars on Disney Plus, and Obi-Wan was like, the overall look of it was not great. This looks amazing, and it's about a character that is, again, as much as I love Rogue One, I'm not like super invested in Andor as a character, but clearly the show also seems to be about not just so much Andor, just really about the beginning of the rebellion, which should be really fascinating to see. It looks great.
And one of the things that I really want to see that this trailer put into effect to me is some of the more inner workings of the Empire. You don't get that inside behind the curtain look really that often with the Empire. So to see them on a daily basis kind of thing, that will be fascinating to me, and done in a way that sometimes we have more jokey Star Wars, which is fine. And then sometimes we have more serious Star Wars, which I would put Rogue One into that category of the more serious type. And so that's what this feels like, and I'm all here for it, because I want to see, to a degree, the Empire being more competent in the way that it should have been back then, as opposed to the more jokey kind that we get where we're always making fun of stormtroopers not being able to hit anything. And you know, I want to see more of the serious side of it in a way that we don't get to see very often. So yeah, there's definitely that. And while this might sound a little controversial, and I would even hesitate to call it that because it's not really, but maybe more of just a hot take, I think I would be okay with the Mandoverse. I don't even know if that's a thing, if they call it that, but I would be okay with the Mandoverse not having this kind of level of quality, if they saved it for certain projects to do this type of level of quality. For instance, like if Ahsoka comes out and it's akin to looking like Obi-Wan and a little bit like Boba Fett, where it's kind of like, I wish it was a little bit higher production. I'll be okay with that if the story is good and if the action's good. I'll be okay with that. But when we have something that's more sort of quote unquote a limited series, maybe I would like to see that bumped up to a higher level of standard with the production value. The one that I kind of have in mind, and I don't even know that it's a limited series, but the one I have in mind is the Acolyte. I would love to see this level of production for that. And if we kept the Mandoverse stuff kind of looking a little bit, I would be okay with that if we can get something like the Acolyte looking like this, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's all that controversial because I don't disagree with you. I mean, So then it's not controversial if I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
No, because, when we think about the volume, which you've talked about, like, I think so far the Mandalorian series has used it quite well. Like, where I haven't thought about the volume much at all with that show. And then we got Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, and I think it's a slightly different story. Like, it seems to me it's all about the way it's used by the filmmakers. There seems to be a creative way to use the volume to make it really effective and not seem like you're on a stage. And then there were plenty of scenes in Obi-Wan that it really felt constrained, and would seem to most of us that it's probably because of the volume.
Right.
So I don't disagree that, hey, if the Mandalorian can keep doing what they're doing, and I mean, from everything we've heard about the trailer for the next season, which hasn't been released to the public, but it was shown at Star Wars Celebration, apparently it looks fantastic. And I'm at least on the understanding that they use the volume on that season, just like they have on the others. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But it could be used well. Just, I'm with you. Like, hey, certain things that are more limited series maybe have a bigger budget. Like Obi-Wan, that was basically, it's a limited series. Like, I hate to keep saying it. Like, it was so disappointing. So that was the thing that felt like, oh man, this should feel like we're watching a movie. Like, and it just didn't. But this looks like a movie. Like, there were a couple shots in this more recent trailer, like one ship that I was like, they could clean the look up of that ship a little bit, but that is nitpicky. I mean, overall, this looks great. So yeah. So that's again coming on September 21st. We'll get 3 episodes then, and they are definitely doing a season 2. So yeah, it's not just a one-off season for Andor. We'll be getting another one, which is exciting. Hopefully that means you have a lot of confidence in this, and it's quite good. So
my curiosity still is going to be the length of time each episode runs, the runtime for it.
Yes, absolutely. It's great when you're doing 12 episodes, but if you're doing 12 30-minute episodes, I might still go, is this really the kind of show that should have 30-minute episodes? I don't know.
Right.
Like, I love a good show that's 30 minutes, but then there's certain shows that feel like they should really be longer. Yeah.
It's just all in the way that you feel that 30 minutes, if it's indeed 30 minutes, so we'll see.
We don't have a ton of time, but there are a couple things I definitely wanted to try to get to before we got to go. I mean, for one, like San Diego Comic-Con came and went. We really haven't had a chance to chat about it. I mean, we could do 3 episodes on things from San Diego Comic-Con, but we'll touch on a couple really quick because I just kind of want to get your opinion and we can share our thoughts. During the Marvel panel, the trailer for Wakanda Forever, the next Black Panther film, was released, and that was also released to the public, so we've all seen it. I'll go ahead and say, like, I watched it, I basically right after it was released to the public. I was at a movie that night, and as soon as I got home from the movie and the panel was over, I watched it. I hadn't watched it again until right before we recorded. I was like, okay, I need to watch this one more time. And watching it again, I'm like, man, this trailer looks so good. I will say, for anyone who doesn't know, I am definitely on the bandwagon that they should have recast T'Challa. It's an obvious, just terrible situation that we lost Chadwick Boseman when we did. And I can absolutely respect the position that Marvel and Kevin Feige and everyone seems to be taking, that, hey, we're going to not recast this role. I guess in one way I get where they're coming from, but in another way, I felt like that role was too important to not keep going with. We only got really one full film with that character. But anyway, with that said, I still have confidence that this movie is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see it. We get a lot of Marvel movies that, as much as we love Marvel, a lot of them can have also, just in terms of their cinematography, just this very kind of clean, polished look about them, and very generic a lot of times. And even just the shots in this trailer, it looks like it just looks great. Like
Yeah.
I can't rave about this trailer enough. I can't wait to see this. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's just before getting the Andor trailer, this was the trailer that I was just like restored my hope in some of the things. And not to say that I was feeling down on any of the Marvel stuff because I've been enjoying what we've been getting.
Yeah.
But it has all sort of, at least within this phase 4, felt of a similar vibe, which again, there's nothing wrong with that because it's all in the same phase and they were probably going for a certain sort of feel to a certain degree. But this really kind of like is a switch and changing gears because where the last movie we're just coming off of before going into this one was Thor, Love and Thunder, and the silliness and over the topness of that movie, and whether you like it or not, that was just the case of what that was. To go into this, now it's like more high stakes. There's the feeling of more connectedness to it, the material, the reality of it all, and it was just done so well. The trailer was put together exquisitely between the music and the Bob Marley cover going into the Kendrick Lamar. It's just done so well. And when you hear the speech, from Angela Bassett, I was just about to say, when she talks about what she's lost and she not given everything, it's just so powerful. And I cannot wait to see the movie. And my only real sadness towards the movie, aside from the actual fact that Chadwick Boseman isn't around, is, as you touched on, the character of T'Challa not being around. I read the comic series in which some of this seems to be pulling from, which is where Namor and his people of in the comics Atlantis flood Wakanda, and so because this big fight essentially against them, and it was to Thanos' doing in the comics, but there's an interesting idea of what's going on here, and to see that play out without that character, it makes me a little sad because I would love to see what that would look like, T'Challa and Namor battling it out in film. And so Marvel was in a bad position at the time because they hadn't even really started this movie yet. And I'm sure at that point, if I remember correctly, they probably had the script done. And then Ryan Coogler had to probably go back and almost wholesale start from scratch to a certain degree because of what happened. And so it was all fresh. So it was like they couldn't just say, oh, we're going to imagine if at that time they said, we're going to recast. It was all so fresh. So it's now that we've had a little bit of time, maybe a couple years since his passing, that we can all start to say, yes, it seems like it would be good to recast the character. And now it would be like, yes, that would maybe be appropriate for them if they were just now starting to film the movie. But now it's already come out because this happened a couple of years ago. So it's at the point where maybe they are starting to hear from people that the ultimate respect would be able to have this character that means so much to people to continue on. And I remember even at the time, if not at the time, slightly after the time, or even in more recent time, that Chadwick Boseman's brother had came out and said that he believes the character of T'Challa should continue, and he believes that that's what his brother would have wanted as well, and seeing that character continue, knowing the importance of the character itself. And I agree. I do think that the character should continue on. And maybe that could happen because we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the Marvel universe that if you do it right, you could have that character come back and not be an alternate version of the character from some other multiverse. It could be that character just in a different body at that point. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up wanting to do with it, and if they kind of pay attention to what I don't know how big that movement is, but there is that hashtag recast T'Challa that I've seen out there. So we'll see what they do. But ultimately, this just looks like it's going to be a very fantastic movie and pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman and that character going into this movie.
All right. So then my question for you is, we know somebody is going to take up the mantle of Black Panther in this movie, so it seems. If I'm curious to ask you, one, who do you think Marvel and Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler have made who's going to be Black Panther in this movie, and versus who would you wish would be Black Panther in this movie, and if it's not the same person, what do you think is going to happen?
I hedge my bets towards it being Shuri, just because there's precedence in the comics where she became Black Panther for a little while when T'Challa wasn't around. So that's where I feel like I'm almost certain they'll go in that direction. But I don't know if I feel like she will continue on that path, just because outside of that, her character being the Black Panther in the movie and in the comics, the actress herself, Letitia Wright, has had some issues in terms of how her beliefs are about certain things. So maybe they don't want to hedge their bets in that direction in case they can't use her going forward for some reason or another. So I don't think that she will ultimately end up being our Black Panther going forward. The only other person, honestly, if you think about who we have, who I would want to be Black Panther, if I had to pick someone, it would probably be Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o's character, because she had capabilities in fighting skills. She was one of the other tribes, I believe, that could contest against being Black Panther if they wanted to. So I think she has the capability to be able to be Black Panther. I just don't know that she would want that. She barely wanted to be part of Wakanda. She was doing her own thing in that movie when we first meet her. So I don't know that she will be. And then I guess as the secondary choice would probably be M'Baku. The only trouble there is that he worships against a different god. So it would be, I don't know how that works in terms of he worships I forget what his god is called, but obviously where's that gorilla aspect. And so there's that. And then Bast is the god for Black Panther, the Panther. So I don't know what that would mean for him to try and switch over and to be the Black Panther, if that was the case, or if he's just doing it to honor T'Challa and maybe takes it on in that way. So that would be my secondary pick if I had to pick someone to go forward as Black Panther. What about you?
It's funny. I'm basically the same situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really want Shuri to be Black Panther. Right. Nothing against that character. I think it's a great character. I don't know that I fall in the camp of loving that idea. I don't, I mean, but I think Nakia,
she hasn't shown any. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say she hasn't shown any proclivity towards it. Like right. She's not a fighter. She doesn't have she's a science nerd. Then that's, I think, where she's best served. So I think that's where she should really stay. It'd be different if they showed signs of that in the first movie or in any of the Avengers movies or whatever, but they haven't. So that's why it would feel a little disconnected from what we've seen of her so far in the past.
Totally agree. Nakia seems like a good pick. I was going to say the same about M'Baku. I hadn't really thought about the God part of it, but I mean that I guess thinking about that makes that a little more complicated. I mean, I've heard the Okoye is how you say that.
Yeah, Okoye
is a possibility. But if I had to pick who I would prefer, I think Nakia would be a really solid pick for whatever narrative they are really going for here. It just seems like something that wouldn't be like, oh, outlandish. For me,
Right.
Shuri, it seems like gravity is taking us toward Shuri is going to be at least Black Panther for a little while in this, and I don't know why it feels that way, but it does. So I don't know. I think that's unfortunate. Again, nothing against the character. I like the character a lot, just not a fighter in that way. So yeah, I think we're almost exactly in the same boat for this. I was curious to know what you thought. Really quick, I mean, we brought it up earlier, so I got to ask. I mean, how are you feeling about She-Hulk? We got a She-Hulk trailer out of that Marvel panel that got released to the public as well. What are you thinking? Is it looking a lot better to you? Maybe not so much.
It's not looking a lot. And by let me clarify. When I say it's not looking a lot better to me, what I mean is her CGI. The show itself looks like it could be fine in and of itself. I'm okay with it being a comedy type series, and that it's going in its own direction in terms of what it's doing. I'm okay with that tone and all that. It's just that it's going to be hard to watch the series when she's in She-Hulk form and be able to feel like it's not something that I'm looking at and being distracted by. So a lot of times it seems like to me it's when her mouth is moving that she looks the most awkward and weird, because it's almost like she doesn't enunciate well enough or open her mouth wide enough to say the words that she's actually saying. It doesn't look quite like it. So it makes it look a little bit weird to me. But I don't, people, and I keep seeing people online saying, oh, they still got some time. And they'll be tweaking this all the way up until the deadline. Yeah. Sometimes that happens, but I don't think they're going to be able to do enough in the time that they have before this thing premieres to be able to make it work in the way that these people are holding out hope for. So you're just going to have to either get on board with the way it looks or not, and that's fine. I think what I'm looking forward to most in the show is one of the things that we heard about as far as there being a lot of cameos. And I'm curious to see who pops up in this series. If you've seen the trailer, you already know that you've got Abomination, you've got Wong, and then you also see at the very tail end of the trailer, you don't see his face, but anyone who knows the two sticks and sees that that's Daredevil. So we know that he'll be in there as well. So those are the things I'm looking forward to in the show, and hoping to at least get past the way She-Hulk looks as she's been CGI generated, or that it's not too much in there that it would become a distraction, because that's sometimes what they do with shows or things that might have a CGI character, is that you don't see them that often. They pop up here and there, but that's a little bit harder to pull off in a series where it's not like where it used to be with the Hulk, where he would Hulk out, and so you'd only have to have Hulk on screen for so long. She-Hulk is typically always She-Hulk form, and very rarely her Jennifer Walters form. So maybe they won't do quite that. Maybe they'll have more of a mix, because one, the CGI, and that in terms of how that character looks, and not wanting to spend too much money on what they already have to do just on top of that. But also because when you have an actress like Tatiana Maslany, you probably want to use her in her normal looking self as well. So I'm hoping maybe that since the CG doesn't quite look the way I want it to look, that they use the character just enough to make it obviously still be that you're getting She-Hulk, but not too much to where I feel like I'm going to be disappointed and distracted by how she looks.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of the first trailer. I'm still not that pumped about the show. I'm already kind of in a funk when it comes to Marvel Disney Plus shows anyway. Like, as much as I overall really enjoyed Miss Marvel, I still think it overall has the same issues of a show that feels like it's really would have been a better film, like in some ways, where it's more like these shows that feel like movies cut into show form instead of really solid good shows. Though again, Miss Marvel has been a bright spot for me. But otherwise, Marvel Disney Plus stuff is starting to, I don't know, wear on me in the wrong way. And this, yeah, I mean, at least it's different. It looks like it could be fun, but then I also don't think the CG looks great. And I'm also kind of tired of the Professor Hulk thing. You know, like, I kind of miss just Hulk smashing Hulk, you know?
Same. I agree.
You know, like, but I guess it is what it is. So overall, I mean, hey, of course I'm going to watch it. It's, you know, it's a Marvel show. I'm going to check it out. But I mean, it would have to be like the first episode or two are just like, oh, wow, this is awful for me to just not watch it, which would be something. It would have to be pretty bad. So I would prefer to still watch it, hate watch it, and then bitch about it here on the show. So I'm sure I'll still watch it. With that, I mean, we're basically out of time, but really quick, I mean, since we're talking about Marvel, I just wanted to ask you real quick, was there anything else, like with all the announcements coming out of that Marvel panel, that you just wanted to touch on really fast before we wrap things up?
Honestly, not much, other than the fact that I'm really glad that they started to give dates to some of the things that we already knew were coming. And so knowing that those dates have been slated, or those movies have been slated with specific dates, it just gives me a nice thing to look forward to. I imagine here next month, when we get to D23, they'll expand upon some more of those dates that we have that are coming up in phase 5 and 6, and also a little bit more detail about some of the movies that we and Disney Plus shows that we have already been announced, as well as some other stuff that hasn't been announced. And I guess the main thing that I would probably want to highlight is the fact that we've got 2 Avengers movies coming in the same year when they do hit. Yep, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. And I'm not as much familiar with the Kang Dynasty storyline from the comics, but I definitely am more familiar with the Secret Wars storyline from the comics. And of course, they always do their own thing with the MCU movies than what's from the series in the comics. But knowing that there's that backline, that baseline, you know, of what we'll get, it has me very, very excited for these 2 movies and to see where we go with phase 5 and 6.
You know, to touch on the Avengers thing, hey, I love that we're getting 2 Avengers films. Please let me say that up front before I say what I'm going to say. But, you know, as a fan like me who's not familiar with the comics and is more just a Marvel fan purely from the MCU side of things and, you know, and such, I guess, you know, when I first saw that announcement, and the thing I still think about that gives me slight confusion, I guess, or pause, is that, I'm so used to, okay, we have a series of films leading up to an Avengers movie, and then we have another series of films leading up to an Avengers movie, and we have another series of films leading up to an Avengers movie. And here we're getting 2 Avengers films in the same year. Like, basically, they're the last 2 movies of that phase. Right. You know, it's, for some reason, I have a hard time going, oh, that's interesting. Like, how are we going to a big moment here with the Kang Dynasty thing with the Avengers, and then immediately into another big thing with Avengers something else? It just feels different than what we've done. So I'm like, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I think they obviously have a plan here. I'm just very curious to see that play out compared to how we've done things so far. Does that make sense?
It does. And the one thing that maybe it's on your slide that you have before this one, but I don't know what we're getting in between those 2 movies as far as Disney Plus shows and where that would go in terms of, does it lead into any of the things? Will it take place in between the stuff that's happening there? Will it take place before it, or whatever the case may be? That would be the one thing that I would say. So yeah, there's something there that's missing for summer 2026.
Yeah, it seems to be 2 things missing.
2 things,
summer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what those will be. That will be our projects in between the 2 big movies.
Yeah, I mean, all signs seem to be pointing to D23. A lot of this Phase 6, graphic getting filled up with other stuff, probably at D23. I would assume. So, yeah, I guess
it seems like. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I don't know if this is working out that way without seeing the entirety of the slide, but it seems like the ones on top are movies and the ones on bottom are Disney Plus shows. At least from this graphic, it kind of looks.
If you go back to the other one, it doesn't. Like this one, it doesn't work out quite that way. You got Marvels and Thunderbolts,
right
there on the bottom for Phase 5. And I mean, for those of you listening, we're looking at the shots of what was shown in Hall H at the Marvel panel of like the different phases and the timeline of like when the various Disney Plus and theatrical movies are being released on what and such. So,
I was looking at
realization.
I did. I had a realization, and it completely crashed as soon as I looked a little bit more at the timeline. I was thinking in between the Avengers movies was Loki season 2, but I see that that's already for summer 2023. So, yeah, I can't imagine what must be in between those.
The only other thing I was going to touch on really quick, which in one half of me is super excited and another half of me is kind of still like slightly concerned, and that's about Daredevil. Like I love Daredevil on Netflix. I am very excited that there's going to be a Daredevil show on Disney Plus now. But then the thing that gives me pause is, in one respect, that's fantastic to hear. There's going to be 18 episodes of the show. Like we've been complaining so much about how few episodes there have been in these seasons, a lot of them all like 6-episode seasons, which are like, come on. Like even in this day and age, it feels like 10 is a pretty common, like solid number. 10-hour-long episodes, to be clear, of a good show. When I hear 18 episodes, like I think to the Daredevil show that we got on Netflix, which those were solid 1 hour, like correct me if I'm wrong, 10-episode seasons, right? Or were they 13? Like
I want to say they were 13. Because I remember the thing being that a lot of people complained about was that within 13 episode seasons of the Marvel series on Netflix, it felt like 2 or 3 of those episodes were never needed, and that it could have been a shorter series for those. Yeah,
they did feel. I remember that now. It's coming back to me that they felt like they could have been 10. But they were 13. Yeah, I think you're right. So I hear 18, and I have a hard time believing that they are making 13, like 45-minute to 1 hour 18, 45-minute to 1 hour episodes. Like I hear 18 episodes, and I'm like, are these 18 shorter episodes? Which, hey, there's no doubt you can make a great show that are 30-minute episodes. I have a hard time imagining a Daredevil show like that, but I have hope that it'll be great, but that's the only thing. I feel like there's been so much hype and excitement about the fact that they've announced that there's going to be 18 episodes, and I can't help but go, is that like too much? Like we went from you go from an extreme of, oh man, we're only getting these 6-episode seasons, like to, well, it's more than double that. Let's get 18. I mean, I don't know. I
guess it goes to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I worry it's like the pendulum, like going a little too far the other way. Like I don't know. It's a ways off. We'll see what we get. It's just that was my reaction to hearing 18. I couldn't help but go, ooh, that's a lot.
But I guess it depends, like you said, really, on if it's 18 episodes of 30 minutes length. So then maybe that doesn't feel quite as long. At least from episode to episode standpoint, it won't feel very long because 30 minutes seems to go by pretty fast. I am of the mind that I'm thinking it probably will be about 30 minutes per episode. At most, it might be like a standard TV series that if you took out the commercials, they're usually about 42 minutes. So I could see it being maybe 30 minutes to 42 minutes long per episode. And then that's kind of the length of the runtime for each episode. And that would be fairly well done. And it just would be, I think, really fantastic if it's done right. And I don't know. what my expectation of a show like that would look like for 18 episodes, other than I haven't quite decided on this yet because I'm really only kind of just thinking about it right now. But I almost want to say that I think they should not do it in the same way that they did the Netflix shows, where it's just one continuous story going all the way across those 13 episodes, and maybe do it like, to a certain degree, traditional old school TV shows used to be, where you would have just not necessarily throwaway episodes, but episodes that are self-contained, where one episode you just see Matt in the courtroom and he's just being the lawyer for that episode, and very little daredeviling on that episode. And then some other episodes he's doing some of the things, but it all still has that through line of what that story is for those 18 episodes. That would, I think, help make it feel less like a long series, because if it's one story, then 18 episodes seems very long when you're telling one long story the way those Netflix shows did. But if there's some self-containedness to it, then maybe it doesn't quite feel that way.
Yeah. I think it's all going to depend on, like we said, what kind of show they're doing. But yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning that. I don't know. I don't fall into the, man, I'm just super hyper getting more episodes. I go, whoa. Like if they had said, okay, we're getting 10 1-hour episodes, I would have been like, here. That's great news.
Yeah.
12 1-hour episodes, great. But
right.
18 episodes and not kind of an idea of like, how long will they be? I'm like, ooh, that's, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. There's a lot more we could talk about. There's stuff we've even watched we haven't had a chance to discuss. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We'll have to do another episode soon to just kind of catch up on things outside of the movie theater or even in the movie theater that we've been watching. So We'll do that soon. With that, we're going to wrap things up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave questions and comments down below. We would love to hear from you. You can like this episode if you've enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we go live or post videos in the future. You can reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at Flickr_effect. So reach out to us there. And I think that's everything. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
Thanks for listening and watching. Bye, everybody.
See ya.